Hello and welcome to Walk the Talk. I am Shekhar Gupta and my guest today needs no introduction. Chances are you use more than one of his products or services. Ratan Tata, welcome to Walk the Talk.
Thank you, Shekhar.
It's nice to be chatting with you now when the mood has changed so little. You remember we had, I think, lunch a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And a Fortune magazine cover story had just come out which said something like the House of Tata is India's biggest and the most respected, but it's also a mess.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And what happened after that? It no longer looks like such a mess.
Yeah, fortunately it doesn't.
If I can put it mildly.
Yeah, fortunately it doesn't. We're going through good times. I think some of confusion. India was going through an economic downturn, and most of our products, steel, automobiles, basic chemicals, are all barometers of
Hotels, certainly.
Hotels because of different reasons.
Right.
Hotels is because of Iraq, Kashmir, SARS, all went through a downturn. And I used to tell our critics that in Tata Motors, Telco at that time, we didn't lose market share, but the market shrank by 40%. So what do you do?
Right.
In a foreign country, you'd close down plants, you'd lay off people. In India, you can't do that. But we seem to have come out of that. The bad times had silver linings. We did a lot of hard issues which we wouldn't have done had times not been so bad.
Did the bad times help you shake off some of the old smugness?
Absolutely.
The House of Tata somehow was much too secure in the marketplace.
Yeah.
There was domination in so many areas and no real competition. For many years, your competition was SAIL.
In steel, yes. Though steel, I must say, has been trying to reinvent itself for some time. It's been going after reducing its costs. But in many companies, certainly as I was there, I used to constantly, we've been doing this for 20 years.
Right.
We don't need to change.
Right.
You know.
Right. But what else did you change? What is the mantra? Tell me.
I think we kind of demanded performance.
Right. So Ratan, tell me the mantra. What caused the turnaround?
Well, one, I have to say with humility, was the turnaround in the economy.
Right.
That improved the demand, the total volume we had. We were a leaner group. There were greater demands on managers. There was a ownership performance.
Did you do things that Tatas would not have done in the past? And did you stop doing things that the Tatas, as a matter of habit, did in the past?
Oh yes, absolutely.
List a few of each for me, the most important ones.
One, for example, we reduced manpower, right size, downsize, whatever you wish to call it. Things we would not have done before.
You were much too benevolent.
Yes, it was taken for granted that there was lifetime employment. Then we took cost out of our system.
Right.
I think that perhaps was one of the more important things that we did. In Telco, for example, we took something like 500 crores out of our cost base.
Right.
That's a pretty significant amount.
Yes. You know, I've sometimes said that just as India reformed its economy, the House of Tatas reformed its business. So tell me the three most reformist things you did in terms of structural changes.
Well, one, as I said, what I kept saying repeatedly was, please question the unquestionable.
Right.
I tried to tell our younger managers, just don't accept something that was done in the past. Don't accept something as being a holy cow. Go question it. That was less of a problem than getting our senior managers not to tell the younger managers, look, young man,
Don't question this.
don't question
This
it.
is how we've done business
That's
for
right.
50 years.
That's right.
And we've
That's
done
right.
okay.
And perhaps, in a manner of speaking, that has been one change that has taken
But
place.
was that a problem? You find too many of these satraps sitting on young talent and not letting them grow, or telling them these are the rules, play by these rules.
Yes, to some extent. You asked what are the other changes. The other change I think that's significant is in JRD's time, we were a confederation of loosely associated companies. People's loyalties belonged to their companies.
They're sharing the Tata franchise.
We didn't really share. We shared it when it suited them.
us, yes.
Getting a common logo, getting a common code of conduct, bringing the group together constantly created a sense of belonging to the group.
You've been very young by Tata standards, so they must have seen you as an upstart who came and said everything is in a mess.
In some ways, I never said everything was in a mess, but I certainly question why we considered ourselves the best in this place. That I was the one that kept making comparisons, which later the fashionable word is benchmarking.
Right.
But I constantly used to make comparisons.
But in a way, these things were linked up with with satraps, with the way business was done in so many companies.
Yes.
Was it painful and bloody?
Yes, it was painful, and at times it was bloody.
So
I think the whole country knows of some of the blood that was shed.
Right.
Much of it was mine.
But but you were never guilty about the blood you had in your hands.
No, but
Good for the shareholder. Tell me, Indica, were there moments of doubt when you thought maybe you had overstretched yourself? Maybe it wasn't possible for an Indian company known to produce sort of, let me say this, not great quality, not international quality trucks, to be producing a car and competing with the best in the business? Because GM, Daewoo, Hyundai, everybody was going to be here.
yeah.
Suzuki.
In fairness, when we started, we only thought that the Koreans could beat us, and then the rest of the people were not here. Shekhar, let me say that throughout from the time the Indica was conceived, I had no doubt about
Right.
what it would do.
Right. But initially, when the market wasn't picking up,
Yeah, no,
so
I
much
was going
competition came
to say, when the car did come out and had some of its early teething troubles,
in. Right.
then I did begin to have doubts that would we really make it? Could we really cross the quality barrier? Could we, in fact, really produce a world-class car without going through a collaboration like everybody said we
Without
should?
demanding 300% duties on
That's
anybody
right.
else who
That's
got in a
right.
car.
Yeah, and I did have some doubts, but they weren't doubts.
Describe to me some moments, and some moments when you introspected or when you took heart from something.
Well,
The losses came on telco.
the losses were not because of the car.
I know.
It was often the project was accused of
Right.
making the losses, but it was the downturn in the truck industry.
Right.
But one of the major problems, early problems in the car, is a silly one, was a defective pulley that we were buying in the market.
Right, there were rumors that the engine falls down,
Yeah, all
and
of
hits the ground.
the mounts used to
Right.
collapse. This pulley used to seize, which caused the belt to break, and then the engine would seize.
Right.
But when you looked at it after the event, difficult to say what caused it. So we'd spent almost 8 months actually trying to get at the real cause of what the problem was.
But you never came close to, you never contemplated abandoning the idea.
Never once.
Did people advise you? Maybe older people, more senior people, what are you doing?
No.
This is
A lot of people advised me.
this is too adventurous for the Tatas.
A lot of people advised me as we were going through the process prior to it was about a 1,700 crore project.
Right.
And in those days, 1,700 crores was,
Serious money.
you're betting your the company's future on it. And there, I think I had no friends. Everybody thought this was Ratan's folly.
Right.
I'm sure some people were very pleased this was happening because it was,
You will always find those times, yes.
but there were many who felt that this is really risky. I'm going through the same thing today on telecom, which is orders of magnitude greater in investment.
Right.
And now the 1700 looks like peanuts.
So, and people come and say, okay, Ratan Tata survived Indica, but telecom will be
his downfall. Yeah.
He'll finally get his comeuppance.
That's right. And you have to take a view that you have to be gutsy, or maybe you're stupid.
Right.
And as I always used to say when people used to question.
But you're an entrepreneur.
I used to say that history will say whether we were courageous or whether we were foolish.
Well, that's the difference between, I think that was the problem with the House of Tatas. It did business, it ran industry, but it did not have so much entrepreneurship in the new economy sort of sense.
No.
So tell me the other thing.
Yeah.
Now that people who say that you will now have finally find your comeuppance in telecom, they say the other thing, that finally you now come head to head with your main rivals, Reliance.
Yeah.
Because in your other businesses, you never had to fight them in the marketplace.
We of course have to fight Reliance.
These are your rover cars, I presume, for exports to...
these are rover.
For export to Britain.
Yeah, these are rover cars.
Yeah.
They don't have the final grille that gets put on in England.
Yes.
But yeah,
Right.
these are...
I can see the insignia, yes.
Yeah, these are...
So we're talking about fighting Reliance in the marketplace.
Yeah, well, Reliance is a formidable opponent and a formidable competitor. If you look at the market, however, you have 1 billion people, and the customer is going to be driven by the quality of service, customer service, and the quality of product offering. And I believe that we certainly can go head to head.
It is also said that when you fight Reliance, you fight them in two places: the marketplace and in the corridors of power.
Yes, and we found from time to time that may be true.
But you can handle it.
We have to handle it in our way, which is in the marketplace. And the customer will have to choose.
But you don't do so badly in corridors of power as well.
I don't think we really pursue trying to achieve a goal in the corridors of power. We're apolitic. We seek what we consider to be our right. We often don't get there.
Ratan, we can go on and on talking about whether you can beat Reliance in the marketplace or whether you can stand up to them in corridors of power. But answer the larger question. Do corridors of power matter as much as they used to do in the license quota Raj? Or do they matter at all?
They matter because we're still not devoid of the impact that these places have. But they don't matter as much as they used to.
But do they matter more than they should have after so many years of reform?
Yes, perhaps they do matter more because the corridors of power or people in these positions of power still expect, as a hangover of the past, people to call on them. They expect policy to be changed or modified based on personal appeals.
Right.
That I call vested interest appeals.
Right.
And so it is still there.
Have you seen examples of that having worked in recent times? Vested interest appeal?
We often don't know of these vested interest appeals because they take place at late at night in dark corners of.
Well, I mean that speaks poorly for the way we may have reformed our economy. If things still happen in dark corners at night with nobody watching.
I think they still do happen.
They still do happen.
but much less than earlier, and of course, not. There's much more robustness in the system
And
than there used to
when
be.
these things happen,
Yeah.
Do these irritate or frustrate you?
To some extent, but I think in fairness to the system and fairness to the officials, it's like a game of golf. You know, you have one good shot, everything seems fair, just, one action done fairly, raises your confidence
Right.
in the system and in India.
But do you sometimes wish that this reform had started maybe a decade earlier? And if it had, where would the House of Tatas have been and where would India's economy have been today?
I think we would have been very much further ahead in terms of what Tatas might have been
Right.
than we are.
This is a marvelous lake you built here.
Yeah, it's really, really rather beautiful. We would have been further ahead. I think we would have been, if MRTP had not been there, we would have been bigger in scale.
So we have lost time. India has lost time.
I think it has, yes.
But similarly, do you sometimes think that the House of Tatas has lost time? One thing people talk about is your reluctance to take TCS public, that you should have done it when the market was good. And it's very funny that TCS is the original big daddy of software. Yes, yet people know Infi.
Yeah, I'm not sorry. I think the markets were super hot. The dot-com era was there. People forgot the bottom line. They were looking at eyeballs and hits. And
All the things that have ceased to matter now.
yeah, and had we gone public at that time, like other IT companies, we would have lost value. People would have said, Tata's lost value. The markets today are much more realistically valued. The IT industry is on an upswing again. Not super hot, it's still smarting from the past.
Yes, but it's now bottom line driven.
It's now bottom line driven, is now performance driven.
Right.
And
But does it worry you sometimes that somehow Infosys and Wipro have become the brands that represent India's sort of rise in software power and not TCS?
yes, it does bother me because I think some of that is unfair.
Right.
But then I understand that being a standalone company, they have the visibility. And I would like to say that TCS will also be a standalone company and will also have its visibility. And we will take it public.
And probably this year.
Hopefully this year.
Hopefully this
Yeah.
year. Or maybe Infi and Wipro benefited from the fact that there were new kids on the block with actually no father. You know, they were first generation companies.
Yeah, but in fairness to Infosys and Wipro, both of them have done a fantastic job of building an image for themselves and for India, and in a very credible way. In fact, no family heritage,
Right.
no corridors of power, built on the skills and
Corridors of
capabilities.
power didn't know they existed till the other day.
It's built on the skills and the capabilities of individuals. I think that's a terrific story.
So Ratan, going ahead, who do you see as your main rival? Is it the House of Reliance? Will it be new Indian entrepreneurs? Or do you think field will become much wider with many more players?
I think it'll be wider. There certainly will be corporations like Reliance. There'll be the privatized public sector corporations, and there'll be the multinationals.
Because you've now acquired the Daewoo truck plant.
Yes.
You are visible all over Afghanistan. You were in China recently. It looks like you also looking now outwards. What is the Tata Group's foreign policy, if I may put it like that?
Our foreign policy or our international goals are really to establish ourselves in various geographies. I was in China and the prospects are very encouraging.
Right.
Even more encouraging is surprising areas in Latin America the week before.
Right.
And the prospects there are phenomenal also. The distance has made us not look at.
And do you think you will have the quality of manpower and managers that you need to power this expansion?
We'll have to acquire them where we don't have them, but it's not wanting.
You've done a good job with that. I think in finding new managers where old ones, people thought if the old ones go, there will be apocalypse.
Yeah, and often one said, you don't have these heavyweights. What will Ratan do?
Right.
He doesn't have the heavyweights that JRD had. I don't have landlords,
Right.
but I have professional managers.
Chief executives, yes.
And when one goes, another comes. That never happened in the past, and I think we have acquitted ourselves fairly well in that. We've had some aberrations, but by and large,
So Ratan, when you look at the future, now you got the basics right. What are the three things you're looking for? I presume a TCS IPO,
yes,
a 1 lakh rupee car,
yes,
and
and I would say great success in the communication area. I don't mean telecom in its narrow form. Communications, which is going to be the new wave of India.
and beating Reliance in the marketplace, if not in the corridors of power.
I won't say that. I think both of us will compete, I hope, fairly and in a just manner in the marketplace.
Well, what
And
better than competition for consumers like
Absolutely,
us, Ratan? All
yeah.
the very best.
Thank you.
You've set a very ambitious target
Thank
for
you very
yourself,
much.
And I hope you do well, and
Thank you.
the company and the group keeps on doing better and better.
Thank you, Shekhar.